All right, here, everybody, bear with us as we get our slides in order. There we go. And is that coming through? There it is. All right. Good morning and happy Thursday. I hope all is well with you and yours where you are today. My name is Brian, and I would like to welcome each and every one of you to the next session in the FDOT CAD Office webinar series. I apologize for the way that I sound. I assure you it sounds a whole lot worse than it is. I'm getting over whatever seasonal allergy or cold was there. But today is Thursday, October 23rd. We are officially 8 days away from Halloween. So if you don't have your costume, you better get with it. But I'm telling you, up here, the weather is getting cooler. I took a picture of my weather station this morning, and it was 49 degrees in Tallahassee. So the morning has a little bit of a chill. It's still like 80 degrees when you go home, but I'll take 50 degrees in the mornings any day. This morning we have an incredible presentation on coordinate geometry and survey calculations. Our instructor, of course, today is the one and only COGO survey calculation guru himself, Mr. John Hazlett. John is the surveying and mapping manager in the Office of Operations Technologies Surveying and Mapping Office. They used to be way back in the day when I had darker hair and more of it under the Office of Design, but lots of moves have been made since then, and you don't want to hear about that. John is the undisputed subject matter expert on all of our surveying and mapping topics, and today is no different. Click right through here. All attendees will be in listen-only mode for this webinar. Please submit any questions you have to the question dialog box. Time permitting, there will be a QA session at the end of the webinar. Your instructor will also receive a report with all of the questions and comments submitted throughout the webinar. It is our intention to record this presentation and post it to the CAD office website. That's the resource with the same website that you access the registration link for this webinar. As of this morning, we had 38 people scheduled to sign in with us. So if any point in the session you lose audio, please know the quickest and easiest way to remedy that is to disconnect and reconnect to the webinar. We'll compile the report and tell us the entire time that you were signed in. And with that, I am going to turn it on over to my friend, Mr. John Hazlett.
All right, thanks, Brian. Brian's always very animated and maybe exaggerates a little bit on my abilities. Hopefully I've remembered the tools that I'm trying to use today. So good morning, everyone. In today's webinar, I will attempt to demonstrate 2D ORD COGO tools and use them to build and station two intersecting alignments. So in this webinar, I will use OpenRoads Designer Connect Edition and present an introduction to ORD Graphical COGO using FDOT Connect 2024. All right, so I'm going to continue on through and show you what my plans are today. COGO.dgn is a new file. We're going to open the COGO.dgn on a proper work set. We're going to review the view options, civil settings. We'll set the baseline survey as active, save settings, and I'll have a word on working units for graphical COGO. From there, we'll review line tools and point tools. Note the element snap 2 controls the elements that were moved. I'll demonstrate that concept. It's a little tough to get your head around that one, but hopefully eventually it'll kind of take. OpenRoads models, we'll look at those and then we'll go down and review the Civil AccuDraw tool. And remember that there is you press the O button for origin to attach the origin for a tool, for instance, baseline offset. Then we'll review the geometry builder and look at the help file. From there, I'm going to pull up two right-of-way maps. We'll review them, State Road 71 and County Road 164. This is the only data that I'm going to be using for this webinar. So if you want to pull any right-of-way map, you'll be able to kind of repeat what I'm doing here with any, like I said, any right-of-way map will do. We're going to build State Road 71 in the geometry builder, and we'll do the same for County Road 164, and we'll place them, and then we'll transform and move them and rotate to be relative to what the data on the maps say at that intersection of those two alignments. We'll monument some of the, we'll put some monuments out there using Civil Active Draw, using the station offset tool, so you'll see the dynamic relationship when you use that tool. We'll look at the locate points tool. We'll do a radial traverse and points on curve little exercise. We'll create a parcel. From there, we'll use the offsets and tapers tool to place a right-of-way line. I am going to create a field book and put some points in it, just a few points, so we'll be able to review those in the points filter along with the 2D points. So the point filter is a tool that's that allows you to look at all the points in current file and your reference files, or any models that are in the file. Okay, so then we'll generate some reports, a map report, map check, a geometry report, and offset report, and then we'll annotate the alignments and look at the station filters tool that CADD support has created, and we'll do some import, export, land XML, and talk about that. And that will pretty much cover everything that I'm going to do today. So with that, let's see, I'm going to just move this over for a moment. I got a couple of maps here, but I'm going to start ORD fresh because I don't want it to crash. And while that's cranking up, I'm going to put this up here, back up here, sorry, and talk a little bit about the COGO.dgn. So the COGO.dgn is a new file that we added to the 2024 workspace, and the reason we created this particular file is because there's not really a good place, a central place to put your COGO. And from experience, my experience and others, we know that you create some COGO points in a master right-of-way file, for instance, or you maybe go over and do it in a jurisdictional model or the township models, or possibly, you know, like a subdivision. So you may be doing these in different models or different files and trying to reference them together to put together your map, and come back 2 months later, 3 months later, or have somebody come out behind you and try to look at it, and it is a puzzle where everything is put. You find yourself, you spend so much time looking for where you did what and where it is, that it gets complicated. And so some consultants have tried using a COGO file and said they like the way just keeping it all in one place. So we're just going to put this out here. This file may be used to develop 2D coordinate geometry for a specific project. Open the COGO.dgn in a proper work set is one of the first things we're going to do here. So I'm going to create a new work set here. I'll just name it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and use the work set template to create it. And so that quickly we've created a work set, and I'm going to go over here. I do have, I just created it right here, and there's nothing in it right now. I'm going to paste a couple of files here, so some XML files. We'll talk about those later for use. And then let's see, I can just put play. And what you do is you browse. Before I hit that, just note that you're over in the custom configuration over here when you load FDOT workspace, FDOT Connect 2024, and then you'll choose the FDOT there, and then choose your work set here. Once it's a new work set, you're going to need to browse down to the blank file. I'll do that, open it. And also a word about proper work sets. Most of the times when we have problems, we have crashes, those kind of issues, it's because we find out that the file being worked on, and I know I did this thing, it's just taking some time. We know that the file that was being worked on was on a server somewhere or in the cloud, even worse, which can cause timing problems and crashes. So if you experience those, work locally, work in a proper work set, and open up there, and it usually minimizes any problems you're going to have. So we have a survey. We have our workflows up here, upper left on ORD, and usually it starts out and opens road models. So I usually go ahead and change that to survey. Note also up here there's a search tool. This is a very effective search tool. So if you're used to SS4, SS10, the V8 version of Bentley, then the tools are still there. You can just type the name in here and get them. On our home tab, normally I will open up my Explorer and dock it right here. It's docked there. Also, I like to hit my models just to see what will happen, and I can control them right here, or back and forth between models and Explorer. And note that when you're using 2D models and you're bringing in data, whether you're importing an ASCII set of points or just building points like I'm going to do today, you can end up with a 3D model. ORD will automatically, when it recognizes a possible 3D element, it's going to build a 3D model to accommodate that element. Don't worry about it. It doesn't cause a problem. It doesn't mean you're working in a 3D. Also, I like to open up my properties dialog box and dock it over here on this side, and also the contextual dialog box. Usually the elements is over there. Usually it's sitting out here somewhere. Also, I like to go ahead and dock it over here too, so I can use my tools, look at it while I use my tools. It's not right in front of my screen. And then we have some other tabs here. We got the field book and analyze. You'll see there's some measure tools under analyze and edits. We don't do a lot of graphical editing when we use features, and I'm going to be concentrating mostly on features today. There's the terrain model tab. We won't look at that, but this is the geometry tab. And here is where we will see different tools. There's line tools, and it'll show up differently depending on how you bring it up. See, it actually changed just a little bit. Here's your horizontal geometry tools right here. We have some general tools that we're going to look at some of these. And then there's the point tool. So there's lines. We're going to be placing lines to elements, lines between arcs, mostly just lines. You can place arcs. Here are your point tools. If you use a point like this, you will be placing points. If you want to locate a point, bearing a distance or angling distance, that kind of thing, you'll use the locate point tool. And notice in ORD, whenever you choose a tools, like for instance over here, if I'm going to say start station, it's going to show that start station tool up top. But let's see if I say copy element, you notice that the icon, so you just hit the element. Once you've chosen tool, you can come back. You don't have to do the drop down to choose that element. And then the complex geometry tool, I'll be using that with the geometry builder. And going across here, the only other tool I'll probably using this list will be the transform tool right here. So we can transform elements, and you can transform by pairs, but we're just going to be using the transform elements tool. And then go on over to FDOT survey tab. I'm going to be using the create file to create a new file. So let me go ahead and do that now. And I'm in the right-of-way workspace, so there you'll find a COGO option now, and I'll put my my item segment number in there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in this case. So it'll be labeled, and of course it's still going to have the sequence 01 at the end. And of course this particular project is in Jackson County, so we'll be on the Florida 83-2011 datum, and this must be set if you're going to view any street maps or aerials that ORD automatically connects up to. So once we've created that, I hit the create file. It's going to open that file. And you notice it'll jump to O2, so I can create another one and another one through O3, O4 on down to this. I'm gonna close this and look at a couple of other things. So one of the first things I'm gonna do is show you a relationship between, before I do that, before I go show you these relationships, let me look at one other thing. Let's see. I want to show you some settings. So I'm going to go over here to the backstage, hit settings, and go up to user for the moment and go here to preferences and select that. And what you'll find, if you look at the very bottom of preferences, you'll see view options civil. And what this does, these are the manipulator handles and text and annotations that it puts out there temporarily for your benefit. So the color we're going to be seeing mostly is going to be this normal color right here. When I go down to survey decorations, I tend to change this blue to a yellow because it's so hard to see it's so hard to see the blue. And the other thing I do is I change the size of these manipulator settings. I think normally they default somewhere around 1, which is very small, but I'll put them up to 1.5 even so you can see them really well. And say okay to that. The other setting I wanted you to note and talk about just for a moment is our working unit. So if I look down here under file and design file settings, these are our normal working units. Just note that our advanced settings, our resolution is the same as it was in V8 I, and what I'm trying to say is that the resolution of this file directly affects the placement of graphical COGO. If this resolution is too small, and we did kind of experiment with maybe lowering the resolution for the design plane, and what we found out was that placing a point directly on a line, offset 0 on a line, would actually put it, the accuracy would be somewhere in even down to 2 decimal places and 3 decimal places, which was a big problem. We can't do that. We have to have at least, my philosophy is you gotta have at least 5 to have good 4 decimal places. So this pushes that resolution error out to around 7 decimal places which is what Bentley shows anyway. They go up to 8 decimal places, but you'll see good up to 6, around 7 decimal places. You'll start seeing a little slop creep in. Normally we just put our accuracy in 2 places here. So that was just be aware of your resolution, and graphical COGO does really well for our purposes with the tools that we're going to be using and the error that we're willing to accept. So down around 7 decimal places is pretty good. So now I'm going to go up here and demonstrate a couple of tools. Let's go back here just for a moment. So those are one of the other things I wanted to mention was something I always do is there's in the Home tab right up here at the active level, I always set mine to baseline survey, and the reason for that is whenever you import or export, especially import or create, say an alignment for instance, but it can be with any type of civil model, and this is set on the default. What happens, those models, they create dependencies within the model, especially like alignments, because you'll have stationing in there, you'll have different complex chains in there, and that dependency will take on the active level. And if the active level is set to default, when you go up and hit your F2 and hit your quick check, you're going to fail QC. So keep it on baseline, especially when you're bringing in like an alignment, or at least keep it on any level that is going to pass QC for that particular file when you're building civil models. Okay. And we talked about graphical COGO units, so let me go over here and go to the next slide. So we're going to review the line and point tools and talk about element snap to control elements that were moved. I'm going to do that right now. Let me pull this back out of the way over here. and go to my geometry tab. I'm going to draw a line, and I'll just push it right across here. It's going to be, well, okay, so it's not going to be any feature unless I set it. So if I go over here and set my feature definition, sometimes it's a little slow. Set my line, set my feature definition. I'm just going to make it a baseline for the moment. It does accept names. You can name them 1, 2, 3, 4. You can BL1, for instance. It will increment from there, or it'll increment from BL. Managing the point names and linear feature names is important, but for this process, it's a little time consuming. I'm just going to let it name whatever it wants to name it. Okay, so I'm ready to draw a line. I can do that by just going right across here like this. And here's a line. Here's a couple 100 feet long. And then with that, I'm going to place a point. So over on my point tools, if I just select this top point, it's going to place a point. As you can see over here, it'll offer you an elevation mode, a rotation mode. If you want to rotate it, you can rotate it on the fly. And I'm just going to choose a monument here. You go down, choose from your list, and I'll choose a monument. I'll stick a monument over here, and I want to put one maybe up here. And I want to demonstrate that concept of move to and what was moved. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to move this line. I'm going to select the line, grab the handles. Oh, let me do this. Select the line, grab the handle, and I'm going to move it to the monument. Now notice it puts a little diamond up there, and there's also a little up to the upper left of that diamond. There's a small ruler, and that means I'm setting a rule. Is basically what it means. That same, if you look down at my button bar down here, and I look right here, this is an origin snap. So if I select that, it's going to do the same thing if it doesn't do it automatically. So it's going to snap to that line, right? That's going to snap to that monument. So I just moved the line to the monument, so the monument controls the line. The other end, I'm going to do the opposite. I'll select this monument right here. I'm going to move it down here, and I'm going to stick it on the end of this line. And you saw it was ruled also. Okay, so what happens is if I move the line that I moved, it's not going to move the monument. Undo. However, if I move the monument, select the monument, and get to it, and that is having a hard time just selecting that monument. There it goes. And I move the monument, notice it moves the line. And down here, it'll be the opposite. If I move the monument, it will not take the line with it, but since I ruled the line to the monument, I ruled the monument to the line, when I move the line, it moves the monument. Okay. One of the other thing I wanted to demonstrate here was the an offset point tool. And I'll just do that real quick. So let's see, I'm going to put a point, but I'm going to use another tool called Civil AccuDraw to do that. So here's the Civil AccuDraw, and I normally dock that up here. And another tool also I wanted to mention is the Feature Definition Toolbar. So if I take this Feature Definition toolbar, I usually dock it right here and leave it up here. I like to take my Civil AccuDraw, dock it up here. The Civil Definition toolbar will let you set the feature definition for what you're drawing over here and keep it current. So I can say, for instance, put it on baseline, and if I notice when I select my line, it's going to say, okay, I chose baseline over here, but if I turn on use active definition over here, notice it grays out over here. So you don't need to choose your feature definition over here. It's in your toolbars. Now these are for linear elements, and it'll affect things when you don't least expect it. So pay attention. If you have this turned off, you can do the feature definition here. If you turn it back on, it takes it from this spot. So the Civil AccuDraw is another tool we're going to be using. I'm going to select it and let it expand out here. And it has some settings. I won't go into the detail. You can actually add some custom settings like offset, for instance. And also, I'll close that. It has some other tools. It has a distance direction tool, a distance direction unlinked, so they won't dynamically link to each other. A distance tool. Here you can just place a point. Here you can place it by offsets, and then you've got a station offset tool to place a monument. And that's what I was going to do right here. I'm going to use this particular tool and hit point, and now it wants to know where it's asking me the station. Well, it doesn't even know that I have anything out here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create this baseline feature into an alignment by starting station here. So I start station at 0. I'll just make it 10 plus 0, 0 for now. And so it is a stationed alignment now. So if I look at it, it'll tell you it's 10 plus 0, 0. This is large because I set that manipulator settings to 1.5. Otherwise, it'd be little bitty. And I'm going to use this tool again. So where's the station? Well, if I hit the O button, like I said, the O is the origin button, and I'll hit it O. It says select reference element to reset to return to command. My reference element is going to be this alignment. So now what it does is it puts these guidelines and says, okay, well, where on the alignment do you want to put it? And I'll put it at, maybe 10 plus 50, for instance, and hit enter, and it'll lock it. If I want it maybe offset 20 feet, it'll lock that. And what it does is as soon as you move your cursor, it locks that place, and I can put it there. Notice the dynamic link to this alignment. If I don't like the 20, maybe I'll change that to 30. And so just a kind of a demonstration of some of the dynamic links that ORD does and how it works. And you need to be cognizant of it, because these can help you and they can cause you problems if you're not aware that they're happening. So you may have an alignment that you move that have all the points linked to the alignment, so the points will go with it. On the other hand, they may not be, and you think they are, and next thing you know, you got a mess. All right, so open roads models is one of the things I did also want to mention. So if I go over to my Explorer tab down here, bottom left, I've got my Explorer ready, and I go to open roads models, you'll notice that I have some points, and I also have an alignment. Okay, so there's the alignment, and if I select it, it actually selects it. So it is another way of selecting. But you can see I've got some points out here. Sometimes it takes a little bit to update these points. I've noticed my point 1, my monument point is missing, but coming back and forth, you'll eventually see it. And those are, let's see, so that's the open roads model. I've talked about Civil AccuDraw. One of the other things I wanted to talk about in that guide was geometry builders. So I'm going to go ahead and delete these. Notice no matter what I do with that, Civil AccuDraw is noticed is on. It has my guideline. It keeps everything ready, and any tool, there are multiple tools that Civil AccuDraw will work with, so you probably want to keep it off most of the time. If you're not using it, you want to keep it off. Okay. Oh, by the way, the one other thing I wanted to mention on Civil AccuDraw is this one right here. I actually had a consultant say there's no way to put a coordinate in ORD. Well, certainly there is. So if you have Civil AccuDraw located, you choose this XY coordinate. You can type in a coordinate. So I can type in 1450, hit the lock 750, for instance, and it's going to put it right there. So that is a way to type in the coordinate. You can also copy and paste from, say, an alignment report right in here and put all your points out and build your alignment, for instance. With that, I'm going to delete these points and this and the chain. I'll turn off Civil AccuDraw, and I want to talk about another tool called the Geometry Builder. It's right here. This is the geometry builder. And going across from left to right, you can open a file, you can save a file, you can save the file as. This is where you add new geometry. So these are, I call them events. These are geometry events. You can copy and delete those events. That all affects over here. You're going across. Let me go ahead and just hit this tool. Whenever you start a new geometry event, I'll select this. It'll place this up here and get your lines and get everything ready to go. And note that you can put multiples. I could have as many geometry events as I wanted. And if I had data in this particular event, or say 4, for instance, I could hit the copy and it would make that, it would copy it exactly. So you can also delete them and just have 1 or 2. In this case, I'll delete it down here and I'll just name this SR 71, State Road 71, for instance. Going across this direction, this is where you set your bearings and degrees, minutes, and seconds, as opposed to like decimal, for instance. And here's your units. Looking at the top here, this is where you begin. This point right here, you see begin point is set to 0, 0. So you can type in a coordinate here. You could type in that 750 X and that, what was it, 1450 Y or something like that, or maybe in the offset. You can put those in here. I'm going to put these back to 0 just for the moment, and start at any given point, and then put in your bearing distance and go. So this is a great tool for reading and inputting deeds into COGO or into ORD specifically. Excellent tool. You can also save each event, or you can save, if you had many events in here, you can save them and they'll all be saved in a specific file when you do that. So for instance, I could say save as and make it SR71, and I'll just do that, say save, and so it's going to say SR71 up here. Be aware when you start a new one. So if for instance, if I delete them all, it still is on SR71. So anything I start new is going to be saved in this file. So you want to save out as a different file if you want to change files. You got to be careful about that, because it's easy to overwrite a work that you thought you were doing, and you ended up overwriting a different file. Like I said, there's the begin point. These tools cross. There's a draw a line or insert a line, insert an arc, a spiral. You can insert a vertex. This is insert an entire existing element, and then you can transpose what's ever here on the screen, or you can transpose just one particular element, for instance, or one particular line on the screen, and then you have a modify the selected item. Over here, this is enable the fit view, so you can find where you're working. This will actually center on whatever item you have selected over here in this list. And I'll talk about these in just a minute. So let me do this. Let's look at some right-of-way maps. So that kind of talks about the geometry. Oh, one other thing about the geometry builder. I'm going to go over here and to home. Oh, no, let's see, home. No, help. And I'm going to hit this help contents, and it's going to go out and find a website. I don't see that they have the CHM, the traditional CHM file for help anymore. I think what you're going to have to do is come here. But for instance, it's pretty good if I type in here, for instance, geometry builder, select it. It's going to give you some search results, and I can just hit geometry builder, and it's going to tell me all about it. It's going to tell me how it works. It's going to show where you implement it, the tools. It's going to talk about those. And if you notice, it looks a little different. The 2024 version has changed. No longer do we have, at least I don't see it down here. I don't see a begin point or a way to show closure in the geometry builder. And I thought it was kind of handy, but honestly, you really don't necessarily need it here. The close to a point option, the closure option, I thought was a little problematic because it would force a call into a line of deed calls that it was hard to get out, to tell you the truth, and you had to almost start over or do some machinations to get rid of it. So it looks to me like they've just removed it because it became problematic. And so I'm going to close this help just to show you, that just shows you where you can get some help. And I'll come back over here, and the next thing I was going to do is I'm going to review right-of-way maps, State Road 71 and State Road 164, and I have those right here. I'll start off with State Road 71, put it up here. It is a north-south. If you look over here, here's the north arrow right here, and it's moving north to south, and I'm going to rotate it back, just make it easier to read. So there's your north arrow going to your right. And we're going to begin at this project beginning right here, this begin project, station 143.8540, and you'll see that it immediately goes into, just a few hundred feet away, it goes into a point of curvature, 147.32.8, and then it has curve data, more PTs and PCs for tangents, and more curve data all the way to the end. One of the things I wanted to note on this, and I'm going to bring this up just to show you, in this map, there's an error in this map. It's hard to say exactly where the problem is, but if you look at this particular curve and you see this 190 plus 81.7, so I'll put in 190, 81.7, and I add to that the tangent length, 762.97, 762.97 equals 19,844, and he had, or 198.44. He has 198.50.7. So there's about a 6 foot, 5.5 foot. Well, actually, it's about 6 foot because it's a little more than this is 7.2. So you're seeing a 6 foot error in here, and I'm not quite sure it was. What happens is it causes, as you move forward in this map, you're going to end up with a problem at the end station, and it's something we could figure out, and probably would need a little field work, and there's been some field work done out there. So that's all probably been reconciled at some point, but we're going to be taking off here near the PC of the curve. So that error is not going to really bother what we're trying to achieve here. And so what I'm going to do is take this map, and I want to start off in Geometry Builder and put in these calls. So let me close this. And so what you'll see is it says bearing. Well, I can put in quadrants. I really like using quadrants. I used them in my early career. We had calculators that we did everything. So if quadrant 1 is northeast, 2 is southeast, quadrant 3 is southwest, quadrant 4 is northwest. So if I put in 4 northwest space 45, 0.30, you can use decimals and say, let's say 30, 50. It's going to say north 45 degrees, 30 minutes and 50 seconds west. So it's really good at reading quadrants. In this case, I want to go northeast, so I'm just going to go, and I want to go straight north. So I'm just going to put 10, and it's going to be north. And I'm going to take this station here. It's let's see, where is that station? Let me pull this over here and look at it. So we've got a station 143.8540, and we have a station 147.32.8, and I could put that in my calculator and give you a distance here, but I'm going to do this, show that you can put in the 147 here. I'm going to put this plus 32.8, and I'll subtract, I'll say minus the 143 plus 85.40, and let this distance do the math. But there's a problem here. if I do the math here, it's going to say 147 plus 32.8, then it's going to subtract 143, then it's going to 85.4. So just note, you can't put the plus for the stations in here. This is just straight math. So if I hit that, it's going to be 347.4 feet is the distance. And as long as I have my little hidden locator, this is, I didn't get to all these, did I? This is the hide locator, and this is to show it's hide or show decorations. If it's highlighted, it's on. If it's unhighlighted, it's off. Okay, so it's for the moment. And if I hit center here, it's going to center right there to this line, and you'll see it's starting at 0, 0. Now notice this is not. If I select it right here, it is not. And I'm going to turn this graphics off just for a second. I'm in the decorations. Just show it right here. So if it's here and I select it, it's going to highlight the color that's in that civil view options, which is purple. You know, this magenta color, and not magenta, but yeah, magenta. Anyway, so if I enable the fit view, it fits it totally to the view. So now what I'm doing is I want to go into a curve. So let me show you this curve data. I'm going to go in here to 147.32, and I'm going to go a curve to the left. And here's my curve data right here. Okay, so let me pull this back aside just for a second. So what happens is when you put in a curve and I drop this down to arc, it's going to compress this line. It's going to put all the possible curve data right here, and it's going to move my bar up to somewhere around in here. So I'm going to hit arc. You see it moved it. It put in all the top. My curve is going to be to the left, so that's correct. It's arc. You can put in chord or arc rules. We're not a railroad, so we will use arc. And I'm going to put in a radius. Actually, what I'm doing, if you look, I don't have a radius. I'll talk about this just for a second. So this map was done in 1935, right there. Okay, they didn't have the tools we have today. It was not easy to do these calculations. They had log tables. They had what are those, the rulers that they used, and they would come up with a really close estimation of these to a reasonable decimal point. So that's why you see on these old maps, you only see degrees to the nearest minute, because they just could not calculate those seconds. You notice also there's no radius, because that was just about impossible, just as impossible to calculate in those days very accurately. In fact, the way they would do these, they would build these curves. The party chief would come down. This may be a dirt road at some point, you know, and we would come down here. He was set up right here at the curve of the dirt road, and he would backslide down the tangent, and they would cut line, and they would cut line all the way down this direction. Then they would go to do the same thing over here. They would set up here, they would backslide, they turn 180 degrees, and they would cut line until they found the point of intersection of this curve between those two lines, and then they would set up there and look both directions. That would establish the central angle of the curve. They needed a tangent distance, though, so that distance from the PC to the PI where they were set up would be the tangent distance, and you can bet that it was somewhere in the 1644 distance, and in the office he brings it back and they make it 1644 even. That's a dead giveaway that's a control type number, that it's a zero. Also, they would also do the central angle. That probably is a control type number. I'm going to put in, but to get to this station and make it work, be accurate, it needs to have the arc length to match. So I'm going to use the tangent and the arc length to build this curve. And that's the way you would do it in most of these old maps if you don't have all the data that you want. And it's a good way to do it at any time. So instead of the radius, instead of arc length or radius, I'm going to change this to a tangent and leave that at arc length. And so I can put in the arc length here, which is 1690. No, that's the wrong one. 3201.67. 3201.67. 1.67, and that's for the arc length. And then I'll go over to the tangent and put that distance in as 1644 even. And it's going to calculate my curve and then go on to the next, to what's next, okay? So what it did was, and if I highlight this curve, you see it's got it right here, and it'll tell me this is where I am. Now notice this is not plotting on the screen. This is like the Geopack visualization. This is a proposed graphic that you would put out there. That brings me over to this tool right here, the remove tangent restriction. So this is forced, or if I take it off, it will not force tangents coming out of that curve. So that curve comes out because I have a forced tangent on right here. Otherwise, it would not have known what direction to go, okay? So when you turn it back on, it's going to warn you, forcing arc and spiral tangents may modify data. And I'll show you how that'll happen. So what'll happen here, I'll get to that in just a few minutes. Let me go ahead and put in another couple of rows here. I'll just leave this forced tangent on for right now. In fact, that's probably the way you're pretty much going to leave it on all the time. The next row here, I'm going to go, I just need to put in these stations. So I'll just do that over here in front of you and read these stations to the side. So I've got a 190 81.7. Oh, that's not the right one. I'll make that a second. I've got a 205, 38. Sorry, I was right first time. 190, 81.7, and I'm going to subtract the PT station, which is 179, 34.47. And so that's going to be a line, and I put that in, hit enter, and it's going to give me that 1147.23 feet. So now it's going to put the next one. Notice if I highlight it, that's where it's going to show. Okay, let's see right here. Here, it'll show my latest call. Okay, so notice wherever you put the highlighter, that's the call it's showing. And as long as I have this on, it'll fit it to view, or I can center it right here. Notice I can center on this particular line. So, and so what I'll do is I'll continue through and go to the next curve, and it would be 198.5. So let's see. So this, I'll just do this one real quick. Let's say this is going to be a curve. It'll be an arc, and this time it's going to be to the right. And I'll make this a tangent again, and arc length. So I'll put in my arc length as it's 1451.67, and this is the curve that has a problem. So we're not sure exactly how this is going to turn out, but the tangent length is 762.97. I suspect they probably used the delta to do this if they messed up. But I'll hit the tab, and it's going to put that next arc in here. Okay, so this is where I want to talk a little bit about what has happened, happening with this forced tangent. So let's say I'm going to go ahead and reload this data from a file because I've saved it to a State Road 71 XML file. So I'm going to kill this data for just a second and just show you one little trick you can do on a new event. So I'm just going to draw a line right here, and it'll insert it, and then I'll draw another line here and let it insert, and then I'm going to do an arc off that. Let's draw that arc right here, for instance. Okay, escape out of that. So I have it drawn, but let's pretend for a moment this arc is not tangent. So if I make this a 0, so let's say I want a tangent arc and I want it to hit right here. The trick is you can go align the tangent direction, make it 0, and it's going to put that arc there non-tangent to that curve. So this is it's a neat little trick of creating a non-tangent curve when you have these tangent restrictions on. When you take them off, it'll actually change them. So if I pull them off, it's no problem. But if I put it back on, yes. Without this line. So what I would do is I come in, I'd say, okay, I use this trick line. Now I'm gonna remove it from the list and watch what happens. You see it move, and now it would not have moved if I had not turned this tangent restriction back on. So this can mess up. So if you're putting in a deed that goes down to a non-tangent curve, be careful to not have this restriction on when you remove that line, that 0 length line to force that tangent. It's a little bit of management, but it's something you need to pay attention to. Okay, so I'm going to kill this, delete all, and I'm going to go back and notice it still says State Road 71. So I'm going to be careful not to overwrite that file, although I haven't really saved it yet. And I'm going to open a new file, and it says, do you want to save changes to this file? And no, I do not, because it would save it to State Road 71. And so I'm going to open State Road 71 unrotated, something I already have in this file, and you'll see now the name changed. And now I have in this the entire length, and if I hit this fit to view, you'll see the entire alignment as it goes. Now it is down there. It's actually at a distance. I'm going to put it 0, 0 just for the moment, because I'll show you a couple of things. And let me zoom in on it. Okay, so it's down here. And I want to talk a little bit about these last 3 options here. You have a ruled civil element right here. Create an unruled civil element. So this is how you would go about creating your alignment. You would use this thing. It would use baseline survey, but notice it's grayed out. I can't change it. That's because this is still on. If I turn it off, now I can change it to whatever I wanted. If I wanted center line, but if I turn this on, it holds it. So you just be aware that these tools work with each other. So I've got a State Road unrotated, and what I want to do first, I'm not going to create a ruled element. I want to create a graphic element. You see it, the ruler actually disappears when I do this. So I'm going to place it at 0, 0, and it's going to be on whatever active level I have, which happens to be baseline survey. So if I hit the place, it's going to place this starting at 0, 0. Select it. Look in my properties dialog box. You'll see that it is a complex chain. Okay. Another thing I could do, I'll tell you what, I'll just dot this just for the moment and kind of work up in here so you can see what's going on. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to have to take this off just to see them. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to close this probably and bring it back up. I'm not going to change those. I'm going to go back to geometry, bring up my geometry builder, and it's still there. Okay. Notice it will open the last file that you've got going. So I'm not going to on this one. I'm going to have graphic line, and I'll turn on simplify or create complex elements. So what this is going to do, and I'll start here, I'll actually move it a little bit. So I'm going to move it, and it moves it dynamically. You can place it wherever you are. So once you hit that begin point, it's going to follow. So I'll just put it over here for a moment. And notice what it did. It created, and now I got to hit the place button. place because it's not actually on it. And this time it created individual elements, okay, because of using that tool. So as you see us over here, it's going up through arcs, chains, lines, etc. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is I'll do the ruled element itself. So it's not going to be graphical, so it's going to put my ruler back up there as an option. And I'll begin my point over here, okay, and place. And now it places my alignment the way I want to see it, okay. And if I select it, it's going to show you an arc, State Road 71. This is arc. Oh, I had these on right here, which means you can place these ruled or unruled but elements as pieces. Turn that off, do it one more time, move it over here and place it. And this time, now it is a complete complex state road, it's complex element, and it shows you. And when I talked about those dependencies, it's these kind of things. See, there's an interval here. You get down in here. This is where you will end up with a default element if you don't look out, and then it'll fail QC. Okay. All right. So the next thing I want to do is I want to actually move this. I'm gonna delete these. And I'm going to turn on my street background. So it's no longer here. I'm looking under my view setup. Where's my street background? Well, in 2024, they have changed it. It's over here. Here's your map type. And so I'm going to put on this, it's the street view or road. They've changed the name from street view to road. And you'll see where 00 is. It's out south of Louisiana. In the Gulf of Mexico, but we want to be over here somewhere around. But this alignment goes from near up here. Actually, you can see the alignment up here along the State Road 71 to Malone, and then we'll show that cut over that County Road 164 over to Bascom. So we're in the ballpark here. So I can go over here and I can select this and I can put it. I can kind of just match it up here, and I'm just going to do this again, based on about where that road to Bascom goes. Put it there, and I'm gonna hit place. And so I've got that I've got it there now. And let's see, is there anything else I wanted to do to this? I'm gonna monument. I want to put a few monuments on it. And so that's probably as good a time as any to do this. I'm gonna close this. And I'm not going to save it because I don't need to at this point. I would save it for the coordinates, but it's already saved in a good spot. I could probably move this over just a little better. So what I would need to do is I can't move it. So if I go over there to drawing and I hit move and I go down here, it's going to say, no, you don't do that. Let's move. I'll tell you what, let's do this a little better. We're going to change this from road view to aerial, and we'll place this a little better. So you'll see the aerial view says it doesn't match too good. Actually, this PC should be just above this road. I know that just from working with it previously. And so I'm going to use the geometry tool to go over and use the transform tool. So this is one of the tools also I mentioned. And it's going to give you a warning that you could mess things up. Yes, and if I look over in my transform elements tool, you see it's got some functionality. This is a copy, but essentially this is a move, and you can copy if you select that. Okay. And here is a rotate. If you want to do that, you can scale and you can transform the Z elevation. I don't have any Z's in this file. So I'm just going to move it, and I'm going to do it by cursor point, which means I can just grab it and pick it up and go. So I'm going to do that. Let's see, transform, select it, on. I'll grab it right here at this intersection and put it up. It's going to be probably somewhere up here. Somewhere about like this, and it moved the entire alignment. Okay. And I want to put some monuments on it or put some calculated points. So we're going to go back to this point tool right here, point. And if I turn on my Civil AccuDraw, I can use origin, and oh, it's not going to do it there. I have to do the station offset. I'm going to turn this off and just put in. I'm just going to put in a point, and I'm going to not put in a monument over here. I'm going to put in this time. I'm just going to put a calculated point, and I'll put it right here at the PC of this curve. Now, this is where it gives many surveyors the uncomfortable feeling to graphically place a point. It does a really good job. I've checked it. I've compared GeoPack and doing the same exact tools or the same exact processes to create these points in GeoPack, and I've done it in ORD, and I've compared coordinates, and they are good down to many decimal places. So it does a good job. Now, when you're graphically placing it on a line like this, 7 decimal place, you should expect good 6 decimal places, so you might see a little slop in the 7th place. Okay, and I'm going to put a line, put a point here, and I'm going to show you a couple other tools. So if I go down here and hit the locate tool, I can change this. I can actually put some traverse, or I can radial shot. I'm going to do that in just a second, but I want to do one other thing first. I put those on there. Do I want to put any more points on? I could put a point at the center of the curve, just as a mark, just in case I need it. I'll put one down here also. And somehow I actually I saw it happen. I put an extra point out there. So what I want to do now is I want to look at another map that intersects this one. So let's look at this map here. Let me pull it over here. And this is County Road 164. And what you're seeing here is you see State Road 71, and you have a station on State Road 71 where this county road comes in to intersect. Okay, and it starts at 9 + 54. And just a couple of things about this county road map here. It does have a bearing, so I finally have a bearing base I can use. Okay, and then it goes directly in a curve to the left. And as I move down here and look at, nothing really unusual here until I get a bearing equation. What that means, this is a non-tangent curve. It's telling me my tangent bearing is 87, 44, 35. Okay, and I have to use that in order to end up with 89, 25, 25 here in the southeast. So what happened is I did exactly what I talked about. I put in this 87, 45, 35, 0 line length, and then I put in that and left the force tangent on, which pushed the curve in the direction it's supposed to go, and my out bearing was exactly 89, 25, 25. So that worked perfectly. And then I went back, turned off force tangents, and then removed that particular 0 line length. Okay. Another thing you'll see up here, it goes through some curves and tangents till you get to the PT of this curve, and there's a station equation. A little bit unusual because it's 127.0124 back, but the station ahead is actually less than the station back. It's 126.9793, which will actually give you 2 different 127s for this alignment. And then it ends up here at 149.32. Okay. And so what I would do is I would go back to my ORD, and I would, I'm going to turn this aerial off for the moment. None. And I would go to my geometry builder. It's under geometry right here. It's still up, and I'm gonna delete all this. I don't need it anymore. I'll say delete all. In fact, I don't even have to delete it. I'm just gonna open, but I will. I'm gonna open up a new file, a new event right here, and I'll call this one SR164. No, it's CR164. CR164. And I would start my geometry builder just exactly like I did the other one. Let's see, let me go find my map here. And it says I want to start at 178 plus 7687. Okay, well that is, I need to locate that station and a point at that station on State Road 71. Okay, so before I start here, I'm going to do that. So what I'm going to do is turn on Civil AccuDraw because I'm going to locate it on an alignment. And I'm just going to hit point. So it's going to ask me, where do you want to put that point? Well, I want the origin. I want the alignment to be my origin. So and I want to put a point. So how do I do that? Let's see. Point. Oh, I don't want to put a point XY. I don't want to put a coordinate in. I want to put a station offset in. So that's what I want to do here. So it says what station? Well, I can't choose my station very easily graphically without doing some COGO. However, if I hit my O and select my alignment, it's going to tie me to that alignment so I can put in the station. I'm looking over here on screen what the station is. It's so I can put in, it's 178 76 87. So 178 plus 76.87. Hit enter and it's going to lock me to that station. Then if I put in, it's the offset's 0 because I want it right on the line. So it's 178 76 87 0. There's only one problem here. I have to station this alignment and I haven't done that. So if I look here, select it, it has no stationing. So I'm going to have to start stationing and I'm going to select it here. Turn my Civil AccuDraw off, 0, and my station for that beginning of this alignment was right here. It was 143.85.40. So I want, let's see, do this again. Start, locate element, 0, and I'm gonna put this as 143 plus 85.40 is my station. So if I select it now, you're going to see 143.85.40 is the beginning of my alignment. So now I can put that point on the station I wanted, which was 178.67. So I will go back up. I'll turn my Civil AccuDraw on, turn a point. I'm still oriented to this because I never turned it off. You know, so you can see I'm still the origin is this alignment, but now I can put 178 plus 76.87 and hit enter, and it's going to lock me to this spot right here. It says, yeah, this is where station 178, and I wanted a 0 offset, so it's going to lock me to this spot. And I'm going to place that calculated point. You can see it's still over here calculated, and it'll just increment that number. Okay. Put left click, and now I have a point. Now I also have a point to start my County Road 164 alignment. So I just select that begin. Now I can turn my Civil AccuDraw off. So select begin here, select that point. It gives me that coordinate, and then I can take off at the direction of the distance that we were looking at, which was south 88.3345 east. So southeast, which is quadrant 2, space 88.3345 is south 88.3345 east, and the distance would be the PC of the station, which would be 1739.18 minus my station 954.67, 954.67, and hit that, and 784.51 feet is the first call. Okay, then I jump into my curve and do the same thing I did before. And what would happen is eventually I would get down, I would be putting all these in, I would get down to this point, and then I would put in a line at 0 line length and right here, and then continue on with this curve data, because it would make it force the tangent to be along that 0 line length bearing. Okay, so I would end up with the south 89, 25, 25 east. I'm not going to take you through all of that. What I'm going to do is, let me just clear this off. I'm going to delete it all and open up a new one. I'm not going to save changes to this file. I have that 164 already in here, input. Just to make sure it's going to be on that point. You see the last time I did this, it's at a different point, but I'm going to put it at this point right here. So now we are here, and I can rule it and place it. And notice that 89, 25, 25, that 0 line length would have gone right above this 89, 25, right before you get to right after this arc. Or right before this arc, actually. So it would be right before this one, right after this one. So you can see I've turned it off, and I've also turned off the tangent, the forced tangent restriction, because if I turn it on, it's going to change. It's going to change. This will no longer be 89, 25, 25. So I got to be careful not to do that. I'm going to go ahead and place this as a baseline and say close. So it should have placed it right there. It did. I'm going to close this. I'll save changes just because I just changed that coordinate point at the beginning of it. So I'll save those changes. And so now what I need to do is tie these. They're tied together by station, but they're not tied together by angle. They're just totally guesswork. So I can look at this right-of-way map, zoom in here, and it tells me exactly how that surveyor tied this together. He came down here, he went down his cut line, he found the section line, he found the section corner, so he actually went between this section corner, and I've looked at these notes for this this township, and yes, this is exactly what he did. And he back-sided down this section line and found the PI and measured it and set up on it right here. On his tangent, he measured it at 57.8 feet, and then he turned an angle down the section to the section corner, and it said 122 degrees and 32 minutes. And he also, so he comes back in, and I'm quite sure he did not measure this distance. He calculated this 121.50 is the angle that the section line makes to a tangent, a line that is tangent at this particular point, okay, which would go up here somewhere and come back this direction, right? So I've gone through his notes and looked at him. He does, it's something he does. It's just this party chief does it this way. You got to watch him though, because he actually made a calculation error on one of his next setups down to a little bit to the south of this. So he had 3 pieces of data that were correct, but 1 that was wrong, and it was just a typo. So what I want to do is I want to put in this point and match this 122.32. Right? So I'll put this aside, and I'm going to do a little bit of locating. So I'm going to use this locate point, and that's over here. And instead of traverse, I'll just do a radial. And it's asking me, well, what method do you want to use? It asks right there on the screen. So I'm going to set radial, and it's going to select the occupied point. Well, the occupied point is going to be this point right here. Select the vacuum. No, that's not. It's not going to be that point. I got to start that again. Okay, so we're going to start at radial, and this is where his occupied. I'm going to occupy this point, and I'm going to backsite this point. And you notice it's putting them up there along with the name, and it's asking me an angle, and so I'm going to put 180 degrees because he turned 180 degrees, and he went 57.8 feet. 57.8 feet. And select it, and I'm just going to put a calculated point because a monument, it looks good, but it kind of gets in the way when you're looking very close. So I'm 180 degrees, 57.8 feet, and this is really nice how it does this. It shows you your point, it shows you your backside, and it shows you your angle that you turned, and it shows you how far you're going. And all I got to do is left click data to accept a point, and I'll do that. And so now I have another point out here, right here. And if I do a quick measure, I go over here to drawing and hit my measure, I can measure between this point and this point, and you'll see it's 0.35 feet, just like in its map. Okay, but it's a little bit off of my line here. So I'm not going to worry too much about that. It is so close. But what I do want to do is I'm going to put a line down here just as a guideline. Okay, so I could use construction, but just I'm going to just use a line here. Instead of saying baseline, I'm going to change this to something like a property line. So let's go down here and choose. These are out of our right-of-way features, and I'm going to I'll just select it from this point. I'll start at this point, and do I have it over here? Just make sure between points, and I'll go down to this point, which is where I set my, do this again. Property line using active feature. Yeah, okay, I'm good. And I can see if I select it, it'll tell me the distance on this thing, 57.8 feet, and it gives me the bearing. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'll look down here and go, okay, what I need to do is I need to match this line here. I need to make this angle to be 122.32 feet. 122 degrees and 32 minutes. So I will use this tool to look and see what it is. Just real quick, let's see if I go to drawing and use this measure angle. Like this one, it's a nice way, easy way, because it shows the two directions you're going right there, and it tells you that angle is 123 degrees and 30 minutes and 51 seconds. So I'm going to have to do some rotating and translating here to get that angle to where I want it to be. And what I have done before, I've moved the County Road 164, but what I'm going to do, in this case, I'm going to rotate State Road 71 because it's the most further away from the aerial. It's, if you notice out of place, so it'll probably be closer, and plus that way I can hold this bearing on this line. And so I will use the transform tool. So I'm going to go up to geometry, hit this transform tool, go over here, turn off the copy here, and select my rotate elements. And what it'll do, it does a few things here, okay? It gives you rotate, and it tells you about where. I'm going to put it in the where first. I want a fixed point. So I want that fixed point to be very specific. I don't want to rotate about here because I'm going to be rotating the entire State Road 71 and this point and all. So I want to rotate about the intersection. This is where the angle is anyway, right here, okay, that he measured, that the party chief measured. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to intersect this point right here, and it's going to put that, oh, I have to hit this button first. So this fixed point, but you actually have to hit this little tool and then intersect it, and then it puts that coordinate right there. So it's going to rotate fixed about that point. So what do I want to rotate? Well, I'm going to have to figure that one out too. This little tool right here, just to the right of angle, will let me measure an angle. And the way it works is if you select it, it wants you to select 4 points. It wants you to select a point here in this direction, and a point here, back to the same point, and then this direction, and it'll put that angle between those points. So I can go up here and I'll select this. My first point is going to be that intersection point here. I could put a coordinate there, but I'll just intersect it there. And then somewhere on this line, so I can just hit near and snap to the line, it's going to give me those first two directions. The second two direction intersect right here and then near to this line. And what you're going to see is it gives me 123 degrees, 30 minutes, and 51 seconds. And it also gives me a proposed rotation, but I haven't chosen what I want to rotate yet. So that'll come next. If I go back, if I get out of the tool and go back, it remembers that. So I want to go back to geometry, go back to transform, and you'll see it still remembers it. So the angle I want is 122.32. So what is the difference? That's 122 degrees and 32 minutes. So what is the difference? Well, how about this is actually a negative direction. I'll just make it positive for the moment, and because I know it's 123, so 122 is left. So how much do I want to rotate? I'll subtract 122. I can put in a space for degrees also, or you can put in the caret, you know, your ampersand, and I'll put in 32 minutes and hit tab, and it's going to calculate that angle to be 58 minutes and 51 seconds. Okay, so I'll just leave that there for the moment and select what I'm going to rotate, because I want to rotate the entire alignment and any points that's with it. Some of those points are going to go with it anyway because they're dynamically tied to the alignment, but then others may not. So I'm just going to get everything right there. Okay. Go to my transform tool. It should remember all that. It does, and it's telling me, it's showing me which direction it's going to rotate. It's giving me a little ghost thing, and it's going the wrong direction. I want to go to the right, so I'm going to put a negative here. Let me see if I can put a negative here. Hit the tab, and see what it does. It rotated it to the right instead of to the left, and all I got to do is left click, and it's going to rotate all of that. Okay. We get out of close this tool, select it, go back down here, and let's see what we did. Use this measure tool, go to drawing, measure, select this direction, and look what I have up here, 122 degrees and 32 minutes exactly. Okay. All right, so what I've done is I've tied these two alignments together using some COGO tools. And if I turn on my aerial, let me turn on my aerial, do something else I'd just like to show you. We're pretty good. We're ballpark up here around Malone. We're still not, we're pretty close to center, but we're not center lining here. And you see we're a little bit that we're rotated the same direction as most. So what we've got here is we're using this bearing base of this particular line right here based on a right-of-way map that was created in 1958. It was 1958. Okay, so you can imagine that the datum was not very well established when this was done. So for that, I'm going to select the whole thing, all of this, and I'm going to do another rotation translation. I'm going to do this little movement around here just to get this looking a little bit better. Now, if we had control, primary network control, we do have a control survey out there, but I'm not going to take too much time to deal with that. But if you have control, you would tie it to that control, which would be easy enough to do. Okay, so this time I'm going to rotate, and I'm not going to rotate by angle. I'm going to rotate by just a cursor point. And my point where I'm going to rotate is already fixed. It's still there, so it's going to rotate about this point. I just need to put a cursor point out there and rotate it. Okay, and what I'll do first before I do that, let me move it, get it in the right spot. Okay, so instead of rotating, I'm going to move it, and I'm just going to move this. Everything that's selected here, and I'm going to select State Road where the intersection of these points, which is not exactly now, and really and truly I should move this thing up. Let me do that. Before I do that, let me do this. So I'm going to use the same thing, but we're going to move this county road alignment. And I'm going to move it to this point so it'll be exactly on the station I want. And because I didn't change orientation, this this angle should still be exactly the same. Just to check, make sure. 122.32, so I'm good. All right, now I want to rotate it. I want to move everything. So I will select it all. Run down here. Now, this is Graphical COGO. It's the way it works. And I'll do that. I'll go to geometry, use my transform tool, move it. I'll move this point right here, and I'm going to just do my best to eyeball it to the center line. I think maybe somewhere right about here. This is about the center. As you know, alignments don't necessarily follow the center line, but in this case, we'll just pretend it does. Okay, and so it should move all of that to there. Then I'm going to rotate it still about that same point by cursor, and I'll rotate it down so the center of this road will be right about there. And look, it's hitting that center road good. They did a good job of surveying this one. The State Road 71 was done in 1935, and it missed a little bit, and it didn't quite make it. In fact, we don't know for sure where this is. This road was probably totally different. So this may be off about 6 feet or so. We just don't know. But for our purposes, it demonstrates what I wanted to demonstrate in these tools. Okay. With that, I'm going to turn this aerial back off, and we'll do a little cleanup. So let me grab my geometry, my guide over here. So we built 164, we've transformed, we've moved and rotated. And so let's put some monuments out there with civil actor draw. So I want to just put a few monuments out there. I want to do something right along in here, so to demonstrate a couple of tools. So let's see, I will place a point. I'm going to place it with civil actor draw. I'm going to place it by coordinate, actually. So I'll just place it by, actually, let me do this. I'll place it by offset. Okay. So it still remembers, I could hit it again. It still remembers my origin. I could hit it again if I select it. And it's a way of doing that. But let's just do it. I want not locate point, that's what's causing the problem here. Point, and I'm going to make this a monument. So I'll make it like a concrete monument. Okay. And if I do it by station offset, is what station offset do it? I want to do it right here. Let's just do it at the PC of this curve. So the station would be here. If I hit enter, it'll lock that station down. If I put 50 feet, it's going to put it at 50 feet. So I'll put a monument up. It didn't put it where I wanted to put it. I lost my point. Let's do that again. Enter. 50. Enter. There you go. What is it doing there? I've added something in there somehow. Let me try that again. Oh, hopefully I didn't mess up my origin. Let's hit the tool, select the point. Unless I moved that station, something else I didn't do over there. Well, I'm not worried about it right now. Okay, there. And do the same thing at block that point. I want to do that, I know. I always seem to fumble at some point. I will lock this station down and 0. I know what's happening. I need to reestablish my origin point. There. Okay. Enter 50. Yeah, what happened there was I had set that origin before I rotated, so it was remembering the old alignment where it was. That is something I did not expect. Let's do. We're gonna lock it again, same place, except for down here. I'll hit enter. I'm gonna put positive 50. Put a point. There. And it keeps going here to the on minus. All right, so anyway, let's see. Let's do a couple of points up here just to give a guide. Apologize for the delay here. So I want to place this point at this station, hit enter, 50 feet, there, enter again, minus 50 feet, and it's stuck on 50 feet up. Enter, positive 50 feet. It keeps going, not quite sure why it's doing that, but I did what I wanted to do. Okay, so I want to do a couple of other things here. I want to monument that, and I want to show you, let's see if that's this at this point. I want to monument it with Civil AccuDraw. And I want to use the locate pool. So yeah, that's where I thought it was. So I want to use this locate point tool. When we turn AccuDraw off, here you go, and do this point, locate point. And I'm going to do this time, I'm going to do traverse. Okay, so I'm going to, it's going to ask me traverse, it's what point. I'm going to occupy this point, backsite this point. I'll turn minus 90 degrees. I'll go out there about, well, I'll see minus 90. I'll go out there about 300 feet, something like that. And it's going to tell me to put a point right there. Let me put a calculate. Let me put a monument there. I'll put a rod this time. And data point to accept. It's going to put that. Now it's traverse mode. So it's asking me again, what do you want to do? Well, I want to do minus 90 again, but this time I'll do about 150 feet, something like that. And 90, left click, so it's going to go there. And then I'll do the same thing again, but I'll go back to 300 feet. And so, oops, I didn't place my point. Let me go to 250, enter, and left click to place the point. I ended up hitting an extra one, but that's okay. And I'm going to go back to my tool again, traverse, select this point, minus 90, I'll go 300 feet and place it there. So I've got a couple of points, monuments to define. I'll call it a parcel, okay? And which is what I wanted to show you, a couple of the functionality of these points. So there's those points. There's also, if you look at the mode, you've got a couple of other things. You can do a point of intersection, so you can You can intersect some points. You can do a point on a curve. Now this is a little misleading because it's talking about establishing essentially a radius point. So if I say point on curve, pick this point, that middle point, and the end point down here, and it's going to essentially do an intersection to establish the radius point. If I was left click and accept, it'll put a radius point down there. Okay. So these are some of the tools that you can use. The radial traverse you've seen, the angle resection points. It's pretty easy to use. You can always go to your help, go to your points, and they will explain exactly how to use these tools. Okay. So I'm going to create a parcel. One of the things I wanted to do when I created that parcel was I wanted to show you how another functionality of the geometry builder, some handy. So I'm going to make a point. I've still got this as a property line, so I'm just going to make a line here, and I'm going to draw some lines. So I'll draw this line to this line. Oop, I missed somehow. This one to the origin. When you see the origin and left click, it's there. It's on that point. Okay. Other things you can do, you can annotate automatically, and you can draw those lines automatically with this tool up here. So if I draw this line here to this point, it's going to automatically annotate, and then it's going to prepare me for the next call. I don't have to do the tool again. See, so I can do these like this, for instance. And so I've got a parcel, so to speak. And the nice thing about the geometry builder is it's got an insert tool. So let's clear this out. I'll delete it all. Yes, and we'll start a new event here. You got to watch out. I don't want to save it under unrotated. This is where you would mess up if you don't look out. Here, let's see. I'll dock it right here for the moment. See if I can get these in here. And I'm going to put in, so I'm going to use this tool right here, this insert element. Well, and if I insert it from this direction, if I hit it down here, it's going to go northeast. If I hit it, it's going to go in the direction of southwest. So if I left click, see it says southwest 300 feet. I can select the next one right here. Left click, it's going to put it in there. Left click, those. It'll put that one in there, and then the last one is here, and it's going to put that in there, and it did some funky things right there. I want to clear this out and show you one other thing you can do. You can go up here to this, make a complex shape out of it. Okay, so and you see the directions, it puts an arrow in the directions it's going to go and where it's going to start. So if I'm at this end, it's going to go down. So right here, I want to start here. So I'm going to complex this shape, this one, and this one. Right click, and now it's a complex shape. If I look at it over here and look over here in the properties, you'll see it's a complex element, and it has a name, and I could actually rename this, as I selected it right down in here. And now I could do a new event and insert this entire thing in the geometry builder. See, so you can you can do them one at a time, or you can do them all. One of the things that I did note that you don't see here, you don't see the closure reports here anymore. So that's going to be just under reports. I would probably save this. I could say I wouldn't want to save it under 164 unrotated. That's a different XML file. So I'm going to save it as parcel. How about 100? And I'll close it. It's going to ask me if I want to save it. So and if I look at my file, I've got a parcel 100 here, and the difference between I'll get that in a minute. These are XML files. So if I open these files, say I open with Notepad++ and look at them wherever it opens, you're not going to see a header up here. So these XML files are specifically formatted for the geometry builder. Just important to know, because that'll come into play at some point. So I've done some of those. Let's show you the offsets and tapers tool. Okay, so that's in here also under horizontal geometry, and it's offsets and tapers. You can do a single offset to an entire element. So I could, I don't want to select that. I want to hit it, and I want to have my origin. No, it's not what I want to do. This is one of those cases where it's asking me something. I want to offset and taper. That's what I want to do. So I'm an origin. I'll depict the element. I've already got property line. I want to change this to right of way line, existing right of way. Oh. And it put it the entire length. But I'm going to put it at 50 feet. So all I got to do is left click and it puts it in there. Could do the same thing. I could do that to the other one. What I want to do here is, I want to escape that. I want to put it here. I want to show you another tool that offset partial. So this time it's asking me, where do I want to start? Okay, so I want to start here. And I want to lock it at 50 feet. No, I don't. I want my offset at 50 feet. I want it. Let's do this again. Try this. Offset partial. Just do it like this is the easiest way without that civil act to draw on there. So I want to go. I want to start here. So I want to start maybe at this monument right here. And I want to. That's where I want to lock that. And I want it at distance. No, I don't want that distance. Let's do this again. Select it. Okay, it's going to start not off that. Sometimes this thing can be a little cantankerous. There. Now, the element, I want it 50 feet, so I'm gonna lock that. And I want it to start right here. And I want to run up to this point. And it didn't do it the way I wanted to do it. Not sure. 50. Just ask me where I want to start. Oh, I need to practice with this one. It worked perfectly earlier. Let's see. So off this element, 50 feet. Station. This is the thing. This is a problem right here. I don't want any of these selected. I want to offset 50 feet. And I actually wanted to put that in there too. So that's one of the things that's confusing me here. Look at your thing. So I want to start here, and I'm just going to move it to here. That's really the easiest way to do it. You got to watch those settings over there. So what happened was I had a bunch of settings set over here, and it was locking it down. So that's how you can set some right-of-way lines. Beyond that, field book. I want to put just a few field book points and explain one other tool. We're running low on time, so I'm going to go over to my survey tab and default field book. I'm going to create a new field book. Yes, I'm going to accept those standards. and go down here to all point features and go new. So I'm going to create some new point features. Locate the field book is going to be field book 1. Field code, let's make that some iron rod caps. So I'll make this IRC. Just want me to put it up here in this one. Enter. Point name, I'll just start with 100. So I just start with 1. And then I'll just put some points out here. Let's just say there were some iron rod caps that were found right away. I do not want that on. Control point, do not climb. It's not a control point. So I just put a few points out here. Pretend that we found some points, and let's see, so maybe some stuff near the right of way. How about that? We found some iron rods out there. And the reason I wanted, and there was only one reason I wanted to show that is because I want to show you a tool, another tool under geometry, and it is my point filter tool right here. Okay, when you pull it up, it's going to show you. I can shut this down a little bit. It's going to show you all the points in the file. Now you can inverse. You'll see I put some iron rod caps. You see it did increment. It did increment exactly the way I wanted it to, but it did increment. You can show just your survey points. You can show just your 2D geometry points. There are things you can do in here. There's if you have a file referenced, it will also show this up in your point filter. You can exclude 2D points and or 3D points, okay? And you can refresh in case there's new points put in and you don't want to close it. Here you can enable fit view, so I'm on calc point with no number, that's that point right there. And you see it's got a little blue circle on it. That's because I've got both the locator and the direct decorations on. I don't necessarily need to show the X and Y. I can turn that off. And then you've got over here, you can create a selection set by just selecting points, and then you can use your inverse tool, and you can use your station and offset tool right here to do. So if you're just going to inverse from 1 to 2, you would select those. I'm going to put control 2. It's moving around because I've got this locators on. Right here, I'll turn this off for a second and hit inverse, and it's going to show you right here a direction inverse. It doesn't have to be to the same point. It can be to like oops, let's do this one and monu 1 and hit inverse, and you can see how it does that. You can do multiple inverses, so it'll do both of them at both of those inverses at the same time. And also you can do station and offset, so it's going to ask you what it's going to want to know what alignment that you're stationing offset off of, and you pick your points, say control points, something like this, and hit station offset, and it should give you it's going to create a report is what it's going to do. And normally it does show station offset though, right there. Put these back in here. And oh, there they are. So it's you see what's happening. It's doing down here, showing station offset of those points, and that I have selected, which are right on the line. I want to show you a couple of other tools. So that's that tool. I want to show you under report. I want to show you some reports. Okay, first of all, let's see. There's a map check report. Let's select this thing right here. Right click. It's going to come up with the map check. So it'll tell you. It'll give you your north and easting coordinates and give you your closure and your area for your map check report. Okay, these are styles, so these reports can be in different styles. You can also file, you can turn around and you can change the format options if you need to. You can save as a Word document, for instance, you know, so you can save your parcel 100, for instance, as a closure report. So you could go around and real nice reports on there. There's a few others I wanted. There's another one I wanted to mention. Well, if you select your alignment, so let's just select it and I hover on it. I can also do reports from there, or I can just it'll give me a horizontal geometry report. Okay, again, this might be something that you want to save as maybe a Word document or an XML. So I'll just say SR71 and hit save as a Word document there. And then the other report I wanted to show you is this point feature station offset elevation report. So it'll do all of them. So you choose your baseline. It's got to be a baseline, and you choose your points that you want to be in the report. You can also make selection sets ahead of time. There's different ways of doing that. I'll just show you a couple of things you can do. How about some of these monuments? You could also just surround them as selection. That's good enough. And if I right click, it's going to give me the station and it's going to give me the offset of all of these points. And then again, I can save that if I want to. There's various ways of creating selection sets. Of course, in the survey tab, have to go to field book and details. You can just select them all right here. Go down here, select this, and right click in this and say selection, create selection set. So you can get all your survey points right there and do your offset report based on that also. Another way you can get some points, if you go to Open Roads Models, you can see your points down here and you can select them this way. Okay, and that'll create a selection set. Okay, so there's different ways of doing this, of selecting and look at them and creating these reports. One of the last things I want to do is I want to show you, I want to annotate these alignments and show you the annotation filter. So if I go up to drawing production and I select annotation and I select this, what to annotate, it'd be this alignment. I go to element selection over here. I didn't quite catch it, did I? Okay, there you go. And annotate it. It'll ask me. There is an option for overriding. Okay, so I could select that override, and that's what I'm doing. Otherwise, it's going to give me the roadway version of the annotations. So I can dig down into this point. I don't want point, I want linear, and I want right of way. And if I dig down deep enough, I'll say the right of way center line baseline right here. Okay, and let it choose that, and it'll do it. And so now, when I left click, it's going to a data point to annotate, and it's going to annotate at the scale I have. It's set to 1 inch with 50. Right there, but it's dynamic annotation, so I can change this. So I'll change this up to something around a couple hundred so you can see it. And it does that. Now, one of the things, let me go up to a little higher. I'll go up all the way up to 500, which would make it kind of big. Do the same thing. Let me select this one right here and annotate it. And I'll do it with this right away center line. So little messy. Data point to select to annotate it. So you see at 500, it's got too many tick marks. So CAD support built, if you look under FDOT survey or FDOT tab, you're going to go down here next to the create file, there's a filter. So CAD support built these filters to filter to, it just changes levels. It just turns on some levels. So there's the 100-foot level filters, or I could put the 500-foot filters. And so what you notice is now this looks much better. Okay. Some of the things, something I didn't do down here that I would like to have gone ahead and shown you. There is a station equation at where is it? It's at I think it's at, let me look, let me go look. It's a 171. Thing. It is at 127. So do I have a 127 stations equation? I have moved. Oh, I haven't even stationed this thing properly. That's the reason right here. So let me go up to geometry. I'm going to start station here, 0. It's going to be at 0 point, and it's going to be 9. What is the name of this? It is 9 plus 54.67. 9 plus 54.67. Okay. So what that's going to do is going to change. It dynamically changed my station. So here's my 127.01. This is where my station equation belongs. And it's pretty simple to do. You add the station equation right here. You locate the element you want to put. Where's the station equation going to be? Well, I've already got it 127.0124. It says there, so that's where I want. And it's going to ask me what's the head station. And if you read it, it says region values must be excluded, meaning that don't put region 1, region 2. They'll do that automatically. It used to, it would say a head station text must be added. So you would put something like AH for a head, and it would put it into the annotations. They've changed that around, so you don't have to do that anymore. So my back station is 126.97.93. I'm just looking over the other page. And if I put that in there, it's going, you see what it did? It restationed and has a back station and a head station now. So I am fully annotated. I'm fully stationed, and I've got some monuments put out there, put a parcel. We looked at all the tools that we need to look at. The only other thing I haven't done, it is almost time, is I haven't imported or exported these alignments. And I think it is important to know that you're going to need to do this. So if you export geometry and you choose the type, I'm going to choose Land XML. You also have IFC. The problem with IFC, it does not incorporate station equations. So if I was to save this alignment as an IFC and put it back in, there would be no station equation. So I tend to go to Land XML. I can reset to complete. It's going to ask me which version. I'll say 2. Active profiles, no. And then I would put SR71. And I always, if it's a Land XML, I always put the word land in front of it because it's a fundamentally different XML file, and you won't know the difference just looking at them. Okay, so I'm going to save State Road 71 as a Land XML. I'll do the same thing. I'll import. Let me select this alignment here. There you go. And I'll import it, Land XML, or export it. And it's a 2.0, no. And I'm going to, that'll be CR164 on the bar of land. And I'll save that. And now I have those parked out here as, where did I save those things? I bet you I saved them in that previous file. And I was working in one earlier, and it was this one. And I bet you I just put my Land XMLs here somewhere. No, not there. You see, where did I put those things? Select it, export. Where did I put them? Oh, I put it in my COGO training. Okay. So right nearby. So right here, COGO training under right away. And I just created that. You can see 10V8, this one here, and I'll copy these two, cut them out. Move them back up where they're supposed to be. Paste. And what I would do is now that makes these portable. And that's pretty much ends my webinar. It's 11 o'clock, and it makes those, what you would do is you would take that land XML and you would move it to a serv-RD. We don't generally annotate in the serv-RD. We also would want to put that in a line RD, that it would get annotated there, and roadway would take it from that point. It also could go in a right-of-way map with these types of right-of-way annotations. So that is my webinar. I don't know if there's going to be any questions. Brian, you got anything?
Yes, sir. We got one that came in about 20 minutes ago. It says, once you create all those graphical points and lines, can you store them in a field book?
Nah, that would be, first of all, they're 2D, so they don't have a vertical component. A field book is it's points and chains. It's survey points and chains. So the only way I would know how to do that is by creating new points right on top of those points. You know, I would go to my field book and I would say all points and go new, and then just go to, and then go find my point. You know, locate the field book and find that point and put it in there. I really don't know of another way of doing this, although it will take the MON feature. So the field code would be feature, point name, say 100 for instance, and I would put it right here. Okay. Just to delete this to see what's in it. I just deleted it, and this one actually is 0.100 monument right there. So you see I did put it in, and it is in the field book. You see it right here. Not a good way to do that. If you have a GeoPack file, there is a way to bring the GeoPack file directly into a field book. And it'll only bring the points and the chains, but you can bring a GeoPack file into a field book. I do have a method for doing that.
Good to know. Yep, that's it. Hey, John, I know you went over your time just a little bit, but that was really a fantastic session. I'd like to thank you for your time and efforts on putting this presentation together for us today. And I'll let you say your goodbyes, and then we'll close it on out.
Okay, well, I appreciate everybody coming, and I hope you got something out of this. It is unfortunate that Bentley has not given us a unified coordinate database, but graphical coordinate works if we make it work. And I'll leave it at that, Brian.
Sounds good. All right, everybody, have a great day.
Thanks.